You probably won't survive this trip in real life. Not without a seriously experienced guide and a whole lot of luck. The Amazon doesn't just asterisk have asterisk life. It is life in its most concentrated, untamed, and utterly indifferent form. Every creature, from the tiniest microbe to the mighty jaguar, is locked in a relentless, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying dance of survival. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And as always, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It has always wild to think of us all connecting across different corners of the world as we embark on these journeys. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You take your first tentative step onto the spongy forest floor, and it's unlike anything you've ever walked on. Layers upon layers of fallen leaves, ancient roots snaking across the path like sleepy pythons, and the rich, dark soil that seems to breathe with its own life. The air is warm, thick, almost chewy, and you can practically taste the chlorophyll. Above you, the canopy is so dense that only a dappled light filters through, creating an eternal twilight down here. It's a quiet, if you know what I mean, not silent, but muffled, as if the forest itself is holding its breath, or maybe just exhaling very, very slowly. You feel a bead of sweat trickle down your temple, even though you've barely moved. This isn't a place you conquer, it's a place you surrender to. The Amazon, you quickly realize, isn't just a collection of trees and animals. It's an entire world unto itself, a living, breathing entity that dwarfs entire countries. Stretching across 9 South American nations, though mostly Brazil, Peru, and Ecuador, it's home to an astonishing percentage of Earth's biodiversity. We're talking about 1 in 10 known species living right here. Think about that for a second. 1 in 10 of asterisk everything asterisk we've identified on this planet, from the microscopic to the magnificent, calls this place home. And that's just the asterisk known asterisk species. Scientists, bless their patient, but bitten hearts, are still discovering new ones at an almost alarming rate. Every time you turn around, it seems, there's a new frog, a new beetle, a new plant that glows in the dark or tastes like chicken, probably not the last one. But you get the idea. As your eyes adjust to the perpetual dimness, you start to notice the smaller inhabitants. The ones that often go unnoticed, but are the true architects of this living system. Beneath your very feet, there are more ants than you could possibly imagine. Not just your garden variety ants. Oh no. Here, you'll encounter the infamous bullet ant, whose sting is reportedly like being shot, hence the name, and whose venom is used by some indigenous tribes in rites of passage. Imagine voluntarily enduring that. Takes growing up to a whole new level, doesn't it? Then there are the leaf-cutter ants, true agriculturalists of the insect world. You see them marching in endless, disciplined lines, each carrying a meticulously cut piece of leaf many times their own size, like tiny green parasols. They don't eat these leaves, though. Oh no, that would be too simple. Instead, they take them back to their colossal underground nests, chew them into a pulp, and use this pulp as a substrate to cultivate a specific fungus, which is asterisk their asterisk food source. It's an ancient, complex farming operation perfected over millions of years, making human agriculture look like a clumsy, recent experiment. Historians and biologists still marvel at the sheer sophistication of these tiny empires. Some even argue that their fungal farming techniques predate human agriculture by tens of millions of years. It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? We think we're so clever, inventing farming. And these little guys were doing it before dinosaurs even considered going extinct. Speaking of things that crawl, you'll want to watch your step. The Amazon floor is a veritable carpet of life. You might spot a brightly colored poison dart frog, no bigger than your thumbnail, clinging to a bromeliad. Their vibrant hues aren't for show. They're a stark warning. Look at me. They seem to shriek, I am beautiful, but if you touch me, you're in for a very, very bad day. Their skin secretes powerful toxins, so potent that some indigenous groups traditionally used them to tip their hunting darts. Imagine the precise, careful handling required to collect that venom without, falling over dead yourself. It's a delicate art, passed down through generations. Then there are the spiders. If you're not a fan of our eight-legged friends, well, you're in for a treat. The Amazon is home to some of the largest, hairiest tarantulas you could ever imagine. They lurk in burrows, patiently waiting for unsuspecting prey. And while their bite isn't usually fatal to humans, it's certainly not going to be a fun souvenir. You might see a Goliath birdiator tarantula, a creature so massive it could cover a dinner plate. Don't worry, despite the name, they usually stick to insects and small vertebrates, not, say, your pet parakeet. Though, I wouldn't put it past them if they were feeling particularly peckish. As you navigate the maze of roots and undergrowth, you might hear a soft rustle, almost a slither. This is snake country. From the enormous anaconda, which prefers the murky waters of the rivers and oxbow lakes. We'll get to those watery wonders later. To the venomous pit vipers, like the fur-de-lance, whose camouflage is so perfect you could be standing right next to one and never know it. Most snakes here are shy, preferring to avoid confrontations. But it's always wise to assume that every fallen branch, every pile of leaves, might just be something with a pulse and a preference for staying hidden. It's why early naturalists like Alfred Russel Wallace, who spent years here in the mid-19th century, often wrote about the constant vigilance required, even when simply collecting specimens. He recounted narrowly avoiding stepping on venomous snakes multiple times, sometimes relying on his indigenous guide's incredibly sharp eyes to spot danger before he did. The sheer density of life here is staggering. Every niche is filled, every resource utilized. It's a masterclass in ecological efficiency. You see fungi growing in fantastical shapes and colors on rotting logs, breaking down the old to make way for the new. These aren't just pretty. They're the ultimate recyclers, tirelessly turning dead organic matter back into nutrients that feed the next generation of trees. Without them, the forest would choke on its own remains. Some of these fungi are bioluminescent, glowing faintly in the deepest parts of the night, creating an otherworldly, ethereal glow. Imagine stumbling upon that in the absolute darkness, a truly magical, slightly unsettling experience. Above you, the forest begins to tell another story. The Amazon isn't just a single layer, it's a multi-tiered high-rise of biodiversity. You're currently in the understory, but if you could peer higher past the dense shrubbery and young trees, you'd see the emergent layer, where giant trees, some reaching over to 100 feet, pierce the sky, their crowns forming a distinct ecosystem. Then there's the main canopy, a continuous, interlocking roof of leaves and branches that hosts an incredible array of arboreal life. But let's stick to the ground for a bit longer. You might catch a glimpse of a tapir, a strange, pig-like mammal with a short, flexible snout. They're like living fossils, ancient creatures that have roamed these forests for millions of years, contentedly munching on leaves and fruits. They're surprisingly agile despite their bulky appearance, often using established trails through the dense undergrowth. And then there's the apex predator, the king or queen, more accurately, as the females are often larger of this particular jungle. The jaguar, elusive, powerful, and breathtakingly beautiful. Its spotted coat melts seamlessly into the shifting light and shadow of the forest. You're unlikely to see one directly, and frankly, that's probably for the best. They are masters of ambush, their movements silent, their strength incredible. They hunt everything from peccaries, wild pigs, and capybaras, the world's largest rodents, to fish and caimans. Historians and anthropologists often note the reverence indigenous cultures hold for the jaguar, viewing it as a spiritual guide, a symbol of power, and a creature deeply connected to the forest itself. Its image is woven into ancient pottery, myths, and rituals, a testament to its profound impact on the human inhabitants of this land for millennia. Some scholarly debates even focus on the extent to which early Amazonian societies adapted their hunting and even their settlement patterns around the presence of these powerful cats. As you push deeper, the air feels heavier, somehow more ancient. You start to understand that this place hasn't just been here for a long time. It feels like time itself moves differently here, stretching and bending around the enormous, slow rhythms of growth and decay. The immense scale of the Amazon is not just geographical, it's temporal. Humans have lived here for thousands of years, long before European explorers ever dreamed of its existence. Archaeological evidence, much of it still being unearthed and debated, suggests complex societies, even cities, existed deep within the forest, practicing sustainable agriculture like the famous terra preta, or dark earth, a uniquely fertile soil created by ancient indigenous populations that retains its fertility for centuries. This incredible ingenuity allowed them to feed large populations without destroying the delicate balance of the rainforest, a stark contrast to many modern agricultural practices. Some historians still argue over the exact extent of these ancient settlements. With new LiDAR light detection and ranging technology continually revealing hidden structures beneath the dense canopy, forcing us to reevaluate our understanding of Amazonian pre-Columbian history. You might find yourself looking up, just out of habit, and catching a glimpse of something moving very, very slowly among the branches. It's a sloth. You might even have to stare for a full minute to confirm it is not just a clump of moss. These wonderfully unhurried creatures are perfectly adapted to their leisurely lifestyle, Their metabolism is incredibly slow, meaning they don't need much food. And their greenish fur, often home to symbiotic algae, helps them blend in perfectly with their leafy surroundings. They sleep for most of the day, hanging upside down, and when they do move, it's at a pace that makes a snail look like a cheetah. This slowness is actually a brilliant defense mechanism. Predators often miss them, simply because they don't register as moving targets. Plus, their low body temperature and slow digestion make them unappetizing to many parasites. It's a life lesson in the art of doing very little, very effectively. They truly embody the sleepy ASMR cadence we're going for tonight, don't they? Just swaying gently, living their best, chillest life. The symphony of the forest is constant, ever present. You can distinguish the high-pitched buzz of cicadas, the deeper drone of beetles, and the erratic chirps of countless unseen birds. The air itself seems to hum with life. You might catch a flush of iridescent blue, a morpho butterfly, its wings like polished jewels, flitting through the gloom. These are just some of the estimated to 0.5 million species of insects that call the Amazon home. Imagine trying to catalogue all of asterisk that asterisk. Entomologists dedicating their lives to this, often literally hacking their way through dense foliage, netting insects, and then spending years in labs classifying their finds. It's a monumental task, and one that feels never-ending. As you tread softly, you become aware of the sheer scale of the water here. The Amazon River itself is not just a river, it's a liquid highway, a serpentine artery pumping life through the entire basin. It's the largest river in the world by discharge volume, carrying more water than the next 7 largest rivers combined. And it's responsible for about 20% of the world's total river discharge into the oceans. That's an insane amount of water, constantly flowing, constantly shaping the landscape. The river and its thousands of tributaries are teeming with aquatic life, from giant otters playfully chasing fish to the infamous piranha, whose reputation, while exaggerated by Hollywood, is still enough to make you think twice about a casual swim. And let's not forget the pink river dolphin, a truly unique and charming creature that's a subject of many local legends and myths. But we'll save those watery depths for another time. For now, you just hear the distant murmur of water, a constant, low from beneath the forest's own symphony. You pause, leaning against the damp trunk of a towering kapok tree, its buttress roots fanning out like giant supports, a silent testament to its ancient wisdom. The humidity is still overwhelming, but you're starting to get used to it, to breathe it in. The air carries the faint, sweet scent of unseen flowers, mingled with the earthy aroma of decay and growth. You feel a tiny tickle on your arm, probably just an ant, or maybe something more exotic, a tiny, harmless beetle exploring. You resist the urge to swat it away, choosing instead to let it continue its miniature journey. Another fleeting moment in this endless tapestry of life. You realize that in this forest, you are not just an observer, you are a temporary, incredibly small part of its ongoing story. The warmth of the kapok tree's bark seeps into your back, a strange kind of comfort in this overwhelming wildness. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the myriad sounds wash over you, the chirps, the buzzes, the distant roars, and it's almost like a lullaby. If lullabies were composed by a million chaotic geniuses all at once, when you open them, the world feels sharper, the greens greener, the shadows deeper. You've settled in a little. Maybe you're not quite as delicious looking to every passing predator as you were 5 minutes ago. Maybe you decide to lift your gaze, to peel your eyes away from the forest floor, as busy theatre, and truly look asterisk up asterisk. It's a dizzying prospect. The understory, where you stand, is just the ground floor of this natural skyscraper. Above you, in the mid-levels, is the asterisk canopy asterisk, a vast, undulating ocean of green that forms the very roof of the world. It's where most of the action, at least the arboreal kind, really happens. Imagine a city built entirely of leaves and branches, stretching for thousands of miles, rarely touched by human feet. Early naturalists would have given their eye teeth, and probably a few toes, for a reliable way to get up there. They'd shoot ropes over branches, build rickety ladders, or simply observe from below, often with a neck ache. Nowadays, dedicated researchers use ropes and harnesses, build canopy walkways that stretch for miles between giant trees, or even, rather wonderfully, deploy blimps and cranes. Yes, blimps, for science. Because when you're studying an ecosystem that's literally hundreds of feet above the ground, sometimes a really big balloon is the most sensible option. And what a world it is up there. If you were to somehow float up, silently, through the tangled vines and lianas that drape from branch to branch like forgotten pirate rigging, you'd enter a sun-drenched, airy realm completely different from the dim forest floor. The air is still humid, but there's often a gentle breeze, rustling the leaves, making the light dance in shimmering patterns. Here, the colors are more vibrant, the sounds more immediate. This is the domain of the Amazon's acrobats and aerialists, the creatures that rarely, if ever, touch the ground. Monkeys, for one. You'd probably hear them before you see them. The chatter of a squirrel monkey troop, tiny bundles of nervous energy darting through the branches. The deep resonant howls of howler monkeys echoing for miles, sounds that feel like the jungle itself is clearing its throat. Howlers, by the way, have one of the loudest calls of any land animal, capable of reaching 140 decibels. That's like standing next to a jet engine. So, when I say lullaby, maybe it's a very loud, primate-infused one. You might spot a capuchin monkey, intelligent and curious, using tools. Yes, they do that. Like clever little macaques to crack open nuts. Or perhaps the vibrant red fur of a socky monkey, sitting quietly, observing the world with thoughtful eyes. They navigate this complex three-dimensional world with an ease that makes you feel profoundly clumsy, swinging from vine to vine, leaping across gaps with astonishing precision. It's like watching a perfectly choreographed ballet. If the dancers had prehensile tails and an insatiable appetite for fruit. And speaking of fruit, the canopy is where the arboreal smorgasbord really happens. Millions of species of plants produce fruits, nuts, and leaves, all vying for the attention of the canopy's residents. You'll find epiphytes, plants that grow on other plants, in abundance here. Orchids, bromeliads, ferns, even cacti, clinging to branches, absorbing moisture and nutrients from the air and rain. Some bromeliads collect small pools of water in their rosettes, creating miniature ecosystems where tiny frogs, insects, and even mosquito larvae can live. It's a whole world within a world, a botanical apartment complex. Botanists still debate the exact number of epiphytic species, but it's easily in the tens of thousands, and new ones are being discovered all the time. Some, with their vibrant colors and intricate shapes, look like something out of a Dr. Seuss book. Others are so perfectly camouflaged they're practically invisible until they burst into bloom. Then there are the birds. Oh, the birds! The Amazon is a birder's paradise, or perhaps a birder's fevered dream, given the sheer number. You've got macaws, of course, those magnificent, squawking jewels of the sky. Their brilliant red, blue, and yellow plumage flashing through the green. They fly in pairs, often, or in small flocks, their calls like rusty hinges on a very large, very loud door. Toucans, with their ridiculously oversized, brightly colored bills, perch majestically, looking like they just stepped out of a breakfast cereal advertisement. Hummingbirds, tiny, iridescent blurs, zip from flower to flower, their wings beating so fast they're almost invisible. And countless other species, from the camouflaged nightjars to the elusive harpy eagle, the largest and most powerful raptor in the Americas. A creature that could easily carry off a monkey or a sloth. Its stare, they say, is enough to make the jungle hold its breath. Indigenous tales often depict the harpy eagle as a creature of immense power and wisdom, a symbol of the forest's untamed spirit. As you consider this aerial world, you might also be reminded that not everything up here is cute and cuddly. Arboreal snakes, like the emerald tree boa or the vibrant parrot snake, spend their lives coiled among the branches, perfectly blending with the leaves, waiting for an unsuspecting bird or rodent to pass by. They're beautiful, yes, but you wouldn't want to inadvertently brush past one. Their camouflage is so effective that even experienced field researchers can miss them until they ray practically nose to nose. It's a good reminder that every pretty thing here often comes with a built-in defense mechanism or a very efficient predatory strategy. But let's talk about the unsung heroes of the Amazon, the quiet giants, the plants themselves. Beyond the immediate vibrancy of the canopy, the sheer botanical diversity is mind-boggling. The Amazon rainforest contains about 40,000 species of plants, many of which are found nowhere else on Earth. And for millennia, indigenous communities have held an encyclopedic knowledge of these plants. Every leaf, every root, every bark has a potential use. Headaches? There's a leaf for that. Fever? A bark. Snake bite? A complex poultice. This isn't just folk wisdom. It's a sophisticated system of pharmacology, passed down orally through generations, refined through countless trials and errors. Early European explorers and naturalists, even those who came with colonialist intentions, were often utterly dependent on this indigenous knowledge for their survival and for understanding the region's vast natural resources. Many of their scientific discoveries were, in reality, simply learning what the local people already knew. This incredible botanical library has, naturally, caught the eye of the modern world. Pharmaceutical companies, for decades, have been sending ethnobotanists and sometimes just plain old bioprospectors into the Amazon, hoping to discover the next blockbuster drug. And sometimes they do. Quinine, for malaria, comes from the cinchona tree, originally used by indigenous Andean people. Curare, a muscle relaxant used in surgery, comes from a vine traditionally used as a dart poison. But this hunt for natural cures has also led to contentious debates about biopiracy, the unauthorized commercial exploitation of traditional knowledge without fair compensation, or benefit sharing with the communities who preserved and developed that knowledge. It's a complex ethical tangle, still being unraveled, highlighting the tension between scientific advancement and indigenous rights. Imagine the sheer amount of unknown potential that still exists here. Thousands of plant species haven't even been formally described by science, let alone tested for their medicinal properties. It's like having the world's largest library, but 90% of the books are still uncatalogued and sitting on unlit shelves. What cures for incurable diseases might be hidden in a single leaf? What new superfoods? What new materials? The questions are endless, and the clock, unfortunately, is ticking. You might even be standing near a cacao tree, the source of chocolate. Imagine your morning mocha, your favorite chocolate bar, all ultimately come from this very ecosystem. The small, often unassuming cacao pod, growing directly from the trunk or larger branches, holds the beans that, after fermentation, drying, roasting, and a bit of magic, become that glorious indulgence. Or perhaps you're near a rubber tree, a seemingly innocuous plant that, in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, sparked a massive economic boom, transforming cities like Manaus into opulent hubs of wealth, driven by the insatiable global demand for rubber for tires and industrial products. The Amazon rubber boom was a truly wild, brutal period of history, fueled by exploitation and greed, with profound and often devastating impacts on indigenous populations. Historians often refer to it as a cautionary tale of unchecked capitalism and resource extraction. The story of Henry Wickham, the British explorer, who famously or infamously, depending on your perspective, smuggled 70,000 rubber tree seeds out of Brazil in 1876, effectively breaking Brazil's monopoly and paving the way for vast rubber plantations in Southeast Asia, is a tale of daring espionage and, frankly, a bit of cheeky botanical theft. It fundamentally altered the global rubber trade and had long-lasting geopolitical consequences. As you lean against that kapaka tree whose very height and buttressed roots speak of centuries of slow, deliberate growth, you become acutely aware of the deep, earthy smell of soil and decay, but also of fresh, vibrant life. This balance, this constant cycle of death and rebirth, is what makes the Amazon so resilient, yet also so fragile. Every element is interconnected. The fungi breaking down the fallen logs feed the soil. The soil feeds the trees. The trees feed the animals, and the animals, in turn, disperse seeds, pollinate flowers, and even fertilize the soil with their waste. It's a self-sustaining, utterly magnificent machine, operating on a scale that defies easy comprehension. And speaking of scale, we can't talk about the Amazon without truly immersing ourselves in its watery heart. You still hear that distant murmur of water, don't you? That's the Amazon River, the lifeblood of this entire region. It's not just big, it's a geological force of nature. It's so wide in places that you can't see the other bank, and so deep that ocean-going vessels can navigate it almost all the way to Iquitos, Peru, nearly 2,300 miles inland from the Atlantic. Imagine that. An ocean liner pulling up in the middle of a rainforest. It's wild. Now, imagine stepping out of the dense forest and onto a narrow, muddy bank. The air here feels different again, more open, perhaps a bit cooler, with the scent of fresh water mingled with the usual forest aromas. The river isn't a placid lake, oh no. It's a powerful, swirling entity, its surface often churned by currents and eddies. Depending on where you are, the water might be a murky, cafe au lait brown. These are the whitewater rivers, like the main Amazon, rich in sediment from the Andes. Or it might be a dark, tea-colored liquid, like strong black coffee. These are the Blackwater rivers, fed by ancient, leached soils, acidic and surprisingly clear despite their dark hue. Each type of water supports a subtly different ecosystem, with specialized fish and plants. Biologists still marvel at how life adapts to these varying chemical compositions, creating microecosystems within the larger river system. And what lives in these waters? Well, let's start with the infamous. Yes, piranhas. Their reputation precedes them, largely thanks to Hollywood movies, where they strip cows to skeletons in seconds. The reality is a bit less dramatic. There are many species of piranha, and while some are indeed carnivorous and can deliver a nasty bite, most are scavengers or omnivores, happily munching on fruits, seeds, and insects. They do, however, go into a feeding frenzy when there's blood in the water, and they can certainly be dangerous if you're injured or stumble into a large, hungry school. So, maybe don't try to swim across a freshly killed animal. Common sense, right? But the myth of the flesh-eating monster is far more entertaining, isn't it? Then there are the caimans, relatives of alligators and crocodiles, lurking along the banks, their eyes like beady pearls just above the waterline. They range in size from smaller spectacled caimans to the truly enormous black caiman, which can grow over 16 feet long and is the top predator in these waterways, capable of taking down anything from capybaras to jaguars. Their presence keeps the balance, ensuring no single species overpopulates. You see them perfectly still, camouflaged, waiting. It's a powerful reminder that even in the water, you're in someone else's territory. But it's not all fangs and lurking shadows. The Amazonian rivers are also home to some truly enchanting creatures. Imagine the giant river otter, a social and playful mammal that can grow up to 6 feet long. They hunt in packs, their sleek bodies gliding through the water with effortless grace, their loud, chattering calls echoing along the riverbanks. They're fierce predators themselves, capable of tackling caimans, but they also have a mischievous, almost human-like curiosity. And then, the pink river dolphin, or boto. These unique freshwater dolphins are often a dull gray, but some, especially males, develop a distinct pink hue, earning them their enchanting name. They navigate the murky waters using echolocation, their long snouts perfect for probing the muddy riverbed for fish. They are central to many indigenous legends. often depicted as shapeshifters who come ashore as handsome men or beautiful women to seduce unwary villagers. Scholarly analyses of these myths often explore their role in explaining natural phenomena or reinforcing social norms within communities. They are a beloved, if increasingly threatened, icon of the Amazon. Beyond the main river channels, you find the *Varzea* and *Gigopo* forests. These are the seasonally flooded forests, areas that spend months of the year partially submerged, transforming the landscape into a vast, watery maze. The trees here have adapted, developing roots that can cope with inundation or even growing specialized breathing roots that rise above the water's surface. Fish swim among the tree trunks, feasting on fallen fruits and seeds, acting as important dispersal agents for the trees themselves. It's a surreal landscape where the usual rules of land and water blur. Exploring these areas by dugout canoe, gliding silently through the submerged trees, is an experience unlike any other, giving you a truly intimate perspective on the forest's adaptable nature. This constant ebb and flow of water, the annual flood pulse, is what truly defines the Amazonian ecosystem. When the rivers rise, they bring nutrients from the Andes, enriching the floodplains, creating fertile grounds for new growth. When they recede, they leave behind vast stretches of exposed mud, which quickly burst into life with new plants. It's a rhythm that has played out for millions of years, shaping the evolution of every creature and plant in the basin. Indigenous communities have lived in harmony with this pulse, for millennia building homes on stilts, shifting their farming, and fishing practices with the seasons a deep practical knowledge that Western science is only now beginning to fully appreciate and study. As you consider the vastness of this watery realm, you might also reflect on the sheer number of species that remain undiscovered. Scientists estimate that only about 10% of the Amazon's fish species have been formally described. Imagine that, 90% still waiting to be named, studied, understood. What new adaptations? What new ecological roles? What new insights into evolution lie hidden beneath those murky waters? It's a frontier of discovery, beckoning with endless possibilities. But the Amazon, for all its timelessness and endless mysteries, is also profoundly fragile. You hear it in the distant whine of a chainsaw, sometimes, or see it in the occasional, unnervingly clear patch of sky where the canopy should be. This forest, this breathing entity, is under immense pressure. Logging, cattle ranching, agriculture, illegal mining for gold. These human activities are gnawing at its edges, transforming vibrant ecosystems into barren land. Every minute, acres of rainforest disappear, taking with them countless species, many of them unknown to science, many with untold potential. It's not just a loss of trees. It's a loss of biodiversity, a loss of the very air we breathe. The Amazon produces about 20% of the world's oxygen, and a loss of the indigenous cultures, whose lives are inextricably linked to the forest's health. The scholarly debates rage on how much can be lost before the entire system tips into irreversible decline. What are the tipping points? Scientists, environmentalists, and indigenous leaders are desperately trying to answer these questions, to find sustainable paths forward. The ancient terra preta that we talked about earlier is a poignant example of a sustainable relationship with the forest. A testament to ancient wisdom that feels more relevant than ever. How did they do it? And how can we learn from it? These are not just academic questions. They are questions for the survival of the planet. You feel a profound sense of awe, perhaps tinged with a little sadness, as you contemplate this. The Amazon is not just a place on a map. It's a living library, a global climate regulator, a repository of ancient wisdom, and a constant source of wonder. You close your eyes again, listening to the cacophony of life around you. The distant roar of a howler monkey, the buzz of insects, the splash of a fish in a nearby stream you hadn't even noticed. It's an overwhelming, immersive experience, a reminder of the raw power and delicate balance of nature. You stand there for a long moment, simply existing within the forest's embrace. The air feels cooler now, perhaps as the sun dips lower, or maybe it's just your body finally acclimating to this perpetually damp, warm environment. You notice the subtle shift in the forest's symphony as dusk approaches, a changing of the guard from diurnal creatures to nocturnal ones. The chirps and calls of day birds begin to lessen, replaced by the rising crescendo of crickets, frogs, and unseen night creatures. A new chapter of the Amazon is about to begin, cloaked in darkness, but teeming with a different kind of life. And we, my sleepy friends, will be right there with it, as the forest reveals yet more of its ancient secrets. And we, my sleepy friends, will be right there with it, as the forest reveals yet more of its ancient secrets. The descent into Amazonian night isn't like the slow fade of a city sunset, where the streetlights hum to life one by one, painting the world in a familiar, soft glow. Here, it's a palpable thing, a rapid, almost aggressive swallowing of the light. One moment, the dappled emerald rays are still piercing the canopy, painting the forest floor in shifting patterns. The next, the greens deepen to inky black, and the shadows stretch out, merging into an impenetrable wall. It's as if someone has pulled a thick, velvet curtain across the sky, plunging you into a darkness so profound it feels almost physical, pressing in on all sides. Your eyes strain, trying to find contours, familiar shapes, anything. But there's nothing but the vague outline of the nearest tree trunk, a darker shade against the already overwhelming dark. But the silence you might expect from such darkness? Forget about it. The Amazon at night doesn't fall silent. It transforms its symphony. The daytime chorus of macaws and monkeys fades, replaced by a crescendo of sound that is utterly alien and entirely overwhelming. It's as if the forest has decided that since sight is no longer an option, it will bombard every other one of your senses. The first thing that hits you is the frogs. Thousands upon thousands of them, each calling out into the humid night. There's the low, guttural croak of a bullfrog, sounding like a distant, grumpy elder clearing his throat. Then the high-pitched trill of tiny tree frogs, like a million miniature alarm clocks, all going off at once. Some sound like clicks, some like whistles, some like tiny, desperate cries. It's a riot of amphibian mating calls, a desperate, nocturnal symphony of here I am. Where are you, baby? Trying to outcompete each other for a mate. Imagine trying to get any sleep with that outside your window. Biologists, particularly herpetologists, those wonderfully patient souls who study amphibians and reptiles, have identified hundreds of different frog species by their calls alone, each species with its own unique vocal signature, like a biological fingerprint. Some of these calls are so incredibly specific that they can pinpoint a species just by listening. Even if they never lay eyes on the actual frog, it's truly remarkable. This auditory map of biodiversity and the insects, they take over with a vengeance. The daytime buzz gives way to a relentless, pulsating hum. Cicadas, which seem to have a second wind at night, vibrate with an almost painful intensity. Crickets chirp with a methodical rhythm, some sharp and quick, others slow and drawn out. You'll hear the drone of countless beetles, the whirring of unseen wings. It's a constant, multi-layered white noise, but not the soothing kind. It's the sound of millions of tiny metabolisms, a living static that makes the air feel charged and alive. It's a good thing you brought those metaphorical earplugs, because otherwise, you'd be counting tiny, multi-legged sheep until dawn. Above you, if you could only see them, the bats take flight. Hundreds of species of bats call the Amazon home, from tiny insect eaters zipping through the gloom, using their incredible echolocation to snatch mosquitoes right out of the air, bless them, to the larger fruit bats, silently winging their way towards a ripe mango tree, guided by scent. And yes, there are vampire bats. Don't panic. They're usually after cattle or wild animals, making a tiny incision and lapping up a small amount of blood. They don't turn into creepy cloaked figures, and they reign not particularly interested in your jugular unless you're a really unlucky, and have a very exposed toe in just the right spot. Still, the thought of them flitting around in the pitch black is enough to make you instinctively pull your blanket a little tighter, isn't it? Scientists, using specialized acoustic detectors, can track the incredibly complex and unique echolocation calls of different bat species, creating an invisible map of their nightly hunting and foraging patterns. It's like listening to the secret language of the night sky, a symphony of ultrasonic clicks and whistles. With sight gone, your other senses heighten. The smell of damp earth and decaying leaves seems richer, more intense. And then there are the scents that only emerge at night. The faint, sweet perfume of night blooming flowers, releasing their intoxicating fragrances to attract nocturnal pollinators like moths and bats. Imagine a delicate orchid, its petals unfurling in the darkness, quietly beckoning creatures from miles away with its sugary scent. It's a whole different kind of floral display, one designed for olfactory communication rather than visual. As you stand there, adjusting to the overwhelming darkness and sound, you might catch a faint, ethereal glow in the periphery of your vision. It's not your imagination. Remember those bioluminescent fungi we talked about earlier? At night, in the deepest, dampest parts of the forest, they light up the rotting logs and forest floor with an otherworldly, soft green luminescence, like tiny, scattered fairy lights. It's one of the Amazon's most magical secrets, a subtle, living beacon in the absolute blackness. Stumbling upon a patch of these glowing fungi is like walking into a natural wonderland, a quiet, mystical experience that feels truly ancient. Some indigenous myths even attribute these glowing patches to the spirits of the forest or to hidden pathways. This deep, Encompassing darkness is also a haven for predators. The jaguar, already a master of stealth, becomes an almost mythical presence at night. Its spotted coat, so perfectly camouflaged in the dappled sunlight, now merges completely with the shadows. It stalks silently, its powerful senses attuned to every rustle, every scent, every faint vibration in the earth. Ocelots and margays, smaller, equally beautiful wild cats, also begin their nightly hunts, their large, luminous eyes peering through the foliage. You might not see them, but they're seeing you, and frankly, they probably don't care that much, unless you happen to be a very slow, very meaty capybara. On the forest floor, other creatures emerge. The armadillos, with their armored shells, snuffle through the leaf litter, digging for insects and grubs. Pacas and agoutis, large rodents, forage for fallen fruits and seeds, their movements quick and furtive. Even the tapirs, those ancient, pig-like mammals, become more active, moving through their well-worn trails with surprising agility. It's a constant, invisible ballet of life and death, every creature playing its part in the intricate web of survival. And the snakes. Oh yes, the snakes. Some, like the pit vipers, come into their own at night. Their specialized heat-sensing pits allowing them to see the thermal signature of warm-blooded prey, even in complete darkness. A tiny mouse, a sleeping bird, a human with a warm body, they all glow like beacons to a pit viper. It's a chilling thought, but also a marvel of evolution, this natural thermal imaging system. Early naturalists would have found their collections slowing significantly at night, reliant on lanterns that often spooked the very creatures they sought, and always conscious of the unseen dangers literally underfoot. This is why indigenous guides, with their generations of passed-down knowledge, were absolutely indispensable, not just for navigation, but for survival. They knew which rustle meant a harmless rodent, and which meant something far more dangerous. The constant vigilance required in the Amazon, even for those simply passing through, is a stark contrast to how many of us experience nature. Where darkness often means a retreat from activity, here, darkness is just another stage for the endless drama of life. Scholarly works on Amazonian ecology often highlight the incredible adaptations of nocturnal species, from enhanced hearing and smell to specialized vision or lack thereof, compensated by other senses. The balance between day and night shifts the competitive landscape, allowing a completely different set of creatures to thrive when the sun goes down. Think about the psychological impact of spending a night in this profound, echoing darkness. Without artificial light, without familiar sounds, the human mind struggles. Every crack of a branch, every splash in a distant stream, every strange cry from the canopy becomes magnified, interpreted through the lens of primal fear and wonder. It's a reminder of our own fragile place in such an untamed world. It's why indigenous communities, living with and in harmony with this environment for millennia, developed such rich oral traditions, myths, and rituals around the night. The night creatures aren't just animals. They're often spirits, omens, or shapeshifters, embodying the mysterious and powerful aspects of the forest. The legends of the Curupira, a forest spirit with feet turned backward to mislead hunters, or the spectral Sashamama, a giant anaconda guardian of the forest, often come alive in the mind during the deepest hours of the night, when the veil between worlds feels thinnest. Anthropologists study these myths not just as stories, but as practical guides to navigating the psychological landscape of survival. In such an intense environment, as the night deepens, you might hear the distant, haunting cry of a potu bird, a nocturnal creature whose call sounds eerily like a human lament. It's the kind of sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand up, a primal, mournful wail that seems to encapsulate the vastness and mystery of the forest itself. These sounds, coupled with the invisible movement of the unseen, create an immersive, almost suffocating sense of being alive in a world utterly indifferent to your presence. You are not at the top of the food chain here. You are just another potential meal, or more likely, an unnoticed, temporary visitor. The humid air, which felt thick and warm during the day, now feels a little cooler, carrying moisture that condenses on your skin. You might feel a tiny tickle on your ankle, a fleeting brush against your cheek. The unseen inhabitants of the night, a beetle, a moth, or perhaps just a stray leaf carried on a breath of air. The temptation to reach for a light source, to dispel the overwhelming darkness, is immense. But you resist. To truly experience the Amazon at night is to surrender to it, to let your other senses take over, to listen and feel the ancient rhythm of the earth. The scholarly debates around the Amazonian night are surprisingly extensive. Researchers are increasingly using bioacoustics, the study of sounds produced by living organisms, to monitor the health of the rainforest. By recording and analyzing the vast nocturnal soundscape, they can track biodiversity, detect changes in ecosystems, and even identify illegal logging or hunting activities. A sudden cessation of frog calls, for example, could indicate a chemical spill. A decrease in insect sounds might point to habitat degradation. The very cacophony that surrounds you is, to a trained ear, a detailed report on the forest's well-being. It's like the forest is speaking, and we're only just beginning to learn its language. The Amazonian night is also a crucial period for countless plant species. Many plants rely on nocturnal pollinators, moths, bats, and even some beetles to reproduce. Think about the epic journey of the hawk moth, a powerful flyer that can hover like a hummingbird darting from one night-blooming flower to another, its long proboscis reaching deep into the blossom for nectar, inadvertently carrying pollen from one plant to the next. Without these unseen nocturnal workers, the cycle of life would break. It adds another layer of appreciation for the interconnectedness of everything here. As the deepest part of the night settles in, the sounds might actually seem to mellow slightly, reaching a kind of equilibrium, a constant, pervasive hum. You find yourself almost drifting, your mind absorbing the rhythm. It's easy to understand how ancient peoples, living solely by these natural rhythms, developed such a profound connection to their environment, their lives entirely dictated by the sun and the moon, the wet and dry seasons, the ebb and flow of the river, and the unseen life that thrives under the cloak of darkness. Their knowledge of the forest wasn't just academic, it was survival. And then, almost imperceptibly, a shift occurs. The inky blackness begins to soften just a fraction. The loudest frog calls might lessen, replaced by a tentative chirping. A very faint, almost imperceptible lightening of the very deepest dark. Just a hint that somewhere, far above the canopy, the first rays of dawn are preparing to kiss the sky. It's not an immediate burst of light, more like a slow, deliberate watercolor painting, where the black slowly becomes a deep indigo, then a bruised purple, and then, eventually, a bruised green. The sounds of the day creatures, previously muted, begin to stir. A distant howler monkey lets out a booming roar, staking its claim on the new day. A macaw squawks somewhere high above. The forest, having reveled in its nocturnal secrets, slowly begins to wake to the light, ready to reveal another aspect of its timeless, vibrant story. You've made it through the night, my sleepy friends, and the Amazon, as always, is ready for its next act. The forest, having reveled in its nocturnal secrets, slowly begins to wake to the light, ready to reveal another aspect of its timeless, vibrant story. And with that almost imperceptible softening of the absolute black, a new set of sounds begins to filter through the canopy, tentative at first, then gaining confidence. The relentless hum of the night insects, while not entirely gone, begins to recede, overshadowed by the first sleepy chirps of diurnal birds. A single, clear whistle cuts through the air, then another, a distant conversation starting up. The air itself feels different, still heavy with moisture, but with a freshness that speaks of the retreating night. You take a deep, slow breath, and it feels like breathing in the very essence of green, cool and damp on your lungs. As the bruised purples in the sky slowly bleed into soft oranges, and then a hazy, pale gold, the world around you begins to regain its form. The nearest kapok tree, a vague outline minutes ago, now stands solid and majestic, its enormous buttress roots seeming to stretch and yawn. The leaves overhead, previously a uniform mass, begin to separate into individual, glistening surfaces, catching the first filtering rays of sunlight. Each droplet of dew catching the light like a tiny, ephemeral jewel. It's like the forest is slowly, exquisitely coming into focus, revealing layers you couldn't possibly perceive in the dark. The howler monkeys, never truly silent, become even more vocal, their booming roars echoing through the waking forest, a primal announcement of the new day. It's less of a challenge and more of a morning alarm clock for the entire basin. You might hear the distinct rhythmic drumming of a woodpecker, searching for breakfast in a tree trunk, or the sharp territorial squawk of a macaw, already soaring high above the canopy, its brilliant plumage a dazzling flush against the brightening sky. This morning's symphony isn't as frantic as the night chorus, but it's just as complex. A grand overture to the day's unfolding drama. You feel a subtle shift underfoot, the spongy ground still damp, but perhaps with a hint of warmth from the burgeoning sun. The air begins to warm, too, the humidity still omnipresent, but now a comforting blanket rather than a suffocating shroud. Little by little, the nocturnal creatures retreat. The frogs quiet down, seeking their daytime hiding spots. The bats return to their roosts, hanging upside down, ready for another day of upside-down slumber. The forest exhales a quiet sigh as the shift from dark to light completes its ancient cycle. As the light strengthens, you realize the sheer architectural marvel of the rainforest is even more pronounced. Those multi-tiered layers, the understory, the canopy, and the emergent giants, are now clearly defined. And with the visibility comes a renewed appreciation for the incredible diversity of life that makes use of every single vertical inch. Higher up, where the monkeys and the birds now dominate, the light is brighter, the leaves are lusher, and the air itself feels more alive with movement. Scientists, using modern drone technology and even those wonderfully bizarre research blimps, can now map these vertical layers in unprecedented detail, revealing microclimates and ecosystems within ecosystems, like tiny, self-contained worlds stacked one on top of the other. It's a literal high rise of biodiversity. And speaking of that biodiversity, the morning light brings into sharper focus the intricate relationships between the animals and the plants they depend on. You might spot a tiny, iridescent hummingbird, its wings a blur, sipping nectar from a brightly colored flower that only opens during the day. This delicate dance of pollination is crucial. Many plant species rely entirely on specific birds or insects to carry their pollen from one blossom to the next, a perfect example of co-evolution. The plant provides food, the animal provides a service, and the forest thrives. It's a botanical dating service, constantly facilitating love connections across the canopy. As you move deeper, or perhaps just shift your weight against the kapok tree, you might notice something new. A path, not a cleared, gravel path like you'd find in a park, but a subtle depression in the leaf litter, smoothed by countless footsteps over countless generations. This isn't just an animal trail. This is a human path. It's a reminder that amidst all this untamed wildness, people have lived, thrived, and navigated this forest for thousands of years, developing an understanding of its rhythms and secrets that Western science is only just beginning to truly grasp. For millennia, indigenous communities have been the true custodians and cartographers of the Amazon. Their knowledge of the forest is not merely academic. It is woven into the fabric of their daily lives, their spiritual beliefs, and their very survival. They know which plants cure ailments, which ones provide sustenance, and which ones are best left untouched. They know the habits of every creature, the ebb and flow of every river, the subtle shifts in weather patterns. Imagine living your entire life, not just asterisk in asterisk nature, but asterisk as a part of asterisk nature, intimately connected to every rustle and roar. Consider their daily rhythm, dictated by the sun and the needs of the forest. As the sun climbs higher, a small village might begin to stir. Smoke might curl lazily from the thatched roofs of malokas, the traditional communal longhouses. As families prepare their morning meals, the scent of wood smoke, mingled with roasted plantains or freshly caught fish, would drift through the humid air. Children, perhaps with pet monkeys clinging to their shoulders, would emerge, heading down to the river to bathe and play. It's a life profoundly different from your own, yet rooted in the universal human experiences of family, community, and the search for sustenance. Their tools and techniques are a testament to ingenious adaptation. Fishing nets woven from plant fibers, canoes carved from single tree trunks boughs, and arrows tipped with expertly crafted points, or even the subtle poisons derived from forest plants. Every item is sourced directly from the forest sustainably harvested. Their farming practices, like the aforementioned Terra Preta, are a marvel of ecological engineering, transforming infertile Amazonian soil into rich, dark earth capable of supporting continuous cultivation for centuries, without the need for destructive slash and burn methods or artificial fertilizers. Historians and soil scientists are still poring over the mysteries of Terra Preta, trying to reverse engineer its composition to apply its lessons to modern agriculture. It's a powerful example of how ancient wisdom can offer solutions to contemporary global challenges. The concept of biopiracy that we touched on earlier becomes even more poignant when you consider the sheer depth of this indigenous knowledge. Imagine a pharmaceutical company discovering a plant with incredible medicinal properties, patenting it, and earning billions, all while the indigenous community that knew of its uses for generations receives no recognition or compensation. It's a complex ethical dilemma, highlighting the ongoing tensions between corporate interests and indigenous rights. And it's a debate that continues to play out in international courts and conventions, protecting this traditional knowledge, not just the physical forest, is a critical part of conservation efforts today. As you imagine life in such a community, you might find yourself wondering about their connection to the Amazon River, the lifeblood that flows through everything. Many Amazonian communities are riverine, their lives intrinsically linked to the waterways. So let's shift our perspective again, from the dense undergrowth and the towering canopy to the open, flowing expanse of the river itself. You push through a final thicket of vegetation, and suddenly the world opens up. The narrow path gives way to a wide, muddy bank, and beyond it, the vast, shimmering surface of the Amazon River stretches out before you, an almost unimaginable expanse of moving water. The air here is less humid, more breezy, carrying the fresh, earthy scent of the river itself. The sky, now a brilliant, cloud-dappled blue, feels immense after the claustrophobic enclosure of the forest. And the sounds are different again. The constant rush of the current, the distant put-put of a small motorboat, the splash of a jumping fish, and the calls of kingfishers diving for their breakfast. The sheer scale of the river, even in daylight, is breathtaking. It's so wide here that the opposite bank is just a hazy, green smudge on the horizon. If you can even see it, it's not just a river, it's an inland sea, a pulsing artery of life. And if you're lucky, you might see evidence of the countless species it harbors. Perhaps a giant river otter, sleek and playful, breaks the surface, holding a fish in its powerful jaws before diving back down with a splash. Or a caiman, eyes just above the water, perfectly still, a living log waiting for its moment. The Amazon River and its thousands of tributaries are home to an astonishing array of aquatic life, some of which are truly legendary. We talked about piranhas, but let's talk about the big guys. Imagine the arapaima, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. These prehistoric giants can grow up to 10 feet long and weigh over 100 pounds. They're ancient fish, almost like living fossils, with armored scales and the unique ability to breathe air, allowing them to survive in oxygen-poor waters. They're a primary food source for many indigenous communities, harvested with traditional spears or nets, their massive size making them a truly impressive catch. Catching one is less like fishing and more like wrestling a scaly, muscular torpedo. Historically, these fish were so abundant that explorers reported them in incredible numbers. But overfishing has led to significant declines in many areas, prompting urgent conservation efforts to protect this magnificent species. Then there's the electric eel. Not technically an eel, but a type of knife fish. These bizarre creatures can generate a shock of up to 600 volts. That's enough to knock an adult human off their feet or incapacitate a large animal. They use this incredible ability for both hunting and self-defense, sending out weaker pulses for navigation and stronger ones to stun prey. Early European naturalists who first encountered electric eels in the Amazon were both fascinated and terrified, recording their experiences of painful shocks and even temporary paralysis. Scholars debate the extent to which indigenous communities had developed methods to safely interact with or even harvest these creatures, a testament to their profound practical knowledge of the environment. Imagine explaining that to your kids. Don't touch the water, sweetie. There's a fish that can literally zap you into next Tuesday. And the pink river dolphins, the botos, seem even more enchanting in the daylight. You might see their graceful, arcing backs as they break the surface, their long snouts probing the murky depths for fish. They're curious creatures, sometimes approaching canoes, their playful nature belying their mythological status as shapeshifters. They are highly intelligent, using complex echolocation to navigate, and their unique adaptations to freshwater environments make them a true evolutionary wonder. Seeing one surface, even briefly, is a moment of pure magic, a tangible connection to the legends and mysteries of the river. Traveling by river is still the primary mode of transport for many communities in the Amazon. Imagine sitting in a dugout canoe, gliding silently along a narrow tributary, the water reflecting the towering trees like an emerald mirror. The forest walls rise on either side, a vibrant, impenetrable green. You pass small, stilted houses on the banks, children waving from the doorways, the scent of wood smoke mingling with the earthy river smell. This is the Amazon from a truly immersive perspective, a slow, deliberate journey that allows you to absorb the landscape, the sounds, the very pace of life. It's a completely different rhythm than the bustling world you left behind. As you drift, or imagine drifting, downriver, you'd notice the subtle shifts in the river's character. Sometimes the main river branches into numerous smaller channels, forming a labyrinth of islands and waterways. These are the Gopis and Vasias, the flooded forests we mentioned, now revealed in their full, watery glory under the sun. Trees stand half submerged, their branches draped with epiphytes, creating a surreal landscape where fish swim among the tree trunks and birds perch on branches. Just above the water, it's a testament to the Amazon's adaptability, a place where the lines between land and water are constantly blurring, dictated by the annual flood pulse that brings nutrients and new life. This rhythmic flooding, this giant, pulsating heart of the Amazon, is crucial to its very existence. The yearly rise and fall of the water level, sometimes by as much as 30 feet, cleanses the forest floor, spreads seeds, and replenishes nutrients. It's a natural cycle that has shaped the evolution of every species here. It's also a powerful force that indigenous communities have learned to live with, adapting their settlements and their livelihoods to its relentless rhythm. Their understanding of these cycles is far more sophisticated than many modern hydrological models. However, even out on the vastness of the river, the signs of human impact are never far away. You might pass large barges laden with timber, or see areas where the forest recedes too abruptly, replaced by cleared land for cattle ranches or soy plantations. The brown, sediment-rich water might carry traces of mercury from illegal gold mining operations upstream, a poisonous legacy that devastates aquatic life and contaminates the food chain. The distant whine of a powerful chainsaw, even from miles away, can carry across the water. A stark reminder of the immense pressures threatening this delicate ecosystem. These pressures aren't just abstract environmental issues. They have profound impacts on the lives of the people who call the Amazon home. Deforestation leads to loss of traditional lands, displacement, and conflicts. Water contamination threatens their food sources and health. The struggle for conservation in the Amazon is not just about saving trees and animals. It's about protecting cultures, traditional ways of life, and fundamental human rights. The scholarly and activist communities are constantly engaged in documenting these impacts, advocating for indigenous rights, and seeking international support for sustainable development models that prioritize both ecological integrity and social justice. But for now, as you float along the river, or simply imagine yourself there, let's try to focus on the overwhelming sense of wonder. The Amazon is a place of endless discovery, a repository of biodiversity so vast it continues to humble scientists and naturalists. Every time a new species is identified, every time an ancient archaeological site is unearthed, our understanding of this magnificent place expands, and with it, our appreciation for its incredible complexity and resilience. You breathe deeply, taking in the scent of fresh water, damp earth, and distant blossoms. The sun is higher now, painting the river's surface with shimmering light. A flock of white herons takes flight from a sandbank, their wings beating in slow, rhythmic strokes against the vast blue sky. A sense of profound peace settles over you, a feeling of being completely present in this ancient, living world. You've moved through the darkness of the night and emerged into the vibrant, sun-drenched day. And the Amazon has unfolded yet another layer of its boundless mystery. But the journey, my sleepy friends, is far from over. There are still more stories hidden within its depths, more creatures to discover, and more secrets waiting to be whispered by the wind through its ancient trees. The secrets you realize aren't just buried in the rich dark earth or hidden beneath the murky waters. They're soaring hundreds of feet above you, whispering through the leaves of the canopy clinging to the highest branches of the emergent giants. We've admired the canopy from below, and now it's time to ascend. Not literally, because, let's be honest, that would involve ropes, harnesses, several weeks of training, and probably a very expensive accident insurance policy. Instead, let's imagine we're lifted, gently, perhaps by a giant, benevolent, very slow-moving sloth, up through the dense layers of green. As you rise, the air changes again. It's less dense, a little breezier, and the light, previously a muted emerald, explodes into brilliant, shifting patterns of sunlight and shadow. You pass through the mid-canopy, a chaotic, vibrant world of interwoven branches, vines, and leaves. This is the arboreal equivalent of a bustling metropolis, where creatures navigate a three-dimensional maze with effortless grace. You might hear the shrill calls of tiny pygmy marmosets, the smallest monkeys in the world, no bigger than a stick of butter, scampering along branches with incredible speed, or the powerful, acrobatic swings of spider monkeys, their prehensile tails acting as a fifth limb, allowing them to hang, twist, and propel themselves through the air with a fluidity that would put any Olympic gymnast to shame. They are the true aerialists of the Amazon, rarely descending to the forest floor, living their entire lives in the leafy high-rises. The sheer number of plants growing asterisk on asterisk other plants up here is mind-boggling. These aren't parasites, not usually. They're asterisk epiphytes asterisk, the air plants, drawing all their moisture and nutrients from the humid air and the frequent rains. Orchids in every imaginable color and intricate design bloom in dazzling displays from the crook of a branch. Bromeliads, with their stiff, waxy leaves, form natural cups that collect rainwater, creating miniature ecosystems complete with tiny frogs, insect larvae, and even microscopic aquatic creatures. It's like discovering a series of tiny, self-contained swimming pools, each a universe in miniature, clinging precariously to the side of a towering tree. Botanists, bless their obsessive souls, spend years classifying these epiphytic wonders, often needing specialized climbing gear or canopy walkways to even reach them. And they are still discovering new species with alarming regularity. It's a testament to the Amazon's capacity for surprise, a botanical scavenger hunt that never ends. Higher still, as you approach the very crown of the canopy, the world opens up even more. Here, the leaves are thicker, tougher, designed to withstand the full blast of the sun and the occasional violent downpour. This is the realm of the canopy's most magnificent birds. You see macaws not just flitting through the trees, but soaring high above. Their calls sharp and clear in the open air, often flying in pairs. Their loyalty is surprisingly touching detail in this wild world. You might spot a cotinga, a jewel-toned bird, its feathers an iridescent blue or crimson, perching silently, almost statue-like. And if you're incredibly lucky, you might glimpse the truly majestic harpy eagle, that apex raptor we mentioned, a massive, powerful hunter whose wingspan can reach 7 feet. Seeing one take flight, a silent, feathered shadow, is a moment of raw, untamed power that truly puts you in your place. They are the undisputed kings and queens of the Amazonian sky, capable of plucking monkeys and sloths right from the branches. And the insects up here, even more diverse, even more bizarre. Imagine stick insects so perfectly camouflaged they could be a twig, or leaf insects that are practically indistinguishable from the very leaves they munch on. You might see a huge, jewel-like beetle, its carapace shimmering in the sun, or a butterfly with wings like stained glass, flitting from flower to flower. Every single one is part of the intricate food web, a meal for a bird, a pollinator for a flower, or a decomposer for a fallen leaf. It's a dizzying ballet of life and death, all happening hundreds of feet above the ground. Now, let's push past even the main canopy, past the dense, interlocking roof. You're entering the asterisk emergent layer asterisk, the very highest reaches of the Amazon. Here, isolated giants, ancient trees that have stood for centuries, pierce the sky, their crowns like independent islands in a sea of green. They stand sentinel, catching the first and last rays of sunlight, towering over everything else. The air here is drier, windier, and you can truly feel the vastness of the Amazon stretching out beneath you, an endless, undulating carpet of green disappearing into the hazy horizon. It has a view that makes you feel both incredibly small and overwhelmingly connected to something immense and ancient. Among these giants, you'll find the magnificent Brazil nut tree asterisk Bertholletia excelsa asterisk. These aren't just big trees. They are ecological keystone species and economic powerhouses for many local communities. They can live for 500 years or more, reaching heights of 160 feet. But what's really fascinating is how their seeds, the Brazil nuts you might snack on, are dispersed. The nuts are encased in a remarkably hard, cannonball-like shell. You can't just crack them open with your teeth, unless you have superhuman jaw strength and a death wish for your molars. So, how do they get out? They rely on a specific rodent, the agouti, a large, powerful-jawed creature that is one of the few animals capable of gnawing. Through that incredibly tough outer shell, the agouti buries the nuts for later, forgets some, and thus acts as a dispersal agent. But here's the kicker. The Brazil nut flowers are only pollinated by a very specific, long-tongued orchid bee. These bees, in turn, often require specific orchids found only in undisturbed primary forest to complete their life cycle. It's a chain of codependency. No orchids, no bees, no bees, no pollination, no pollination, no Brazil nuts, no Brazil nuts, no agoutis, no agoutis, no new trees. It's a delicate, intricate web, where the commercial harvest of Brazil nuts is literally dependent on the health of the entire, complex ecosystem. It's why harvesting Brazil nuts is one of the few truly sustainable forest products. As long as the forest remains intact. Try explaining that intricate biological dance to a corporate CEO who just wants to clear cut for cattle. Historians of sustainability often point to the Brazil nut industry as a rare example of a traditional, extractive economy that can be genuinely symbiotic with the rainforest, provided it's managed responsibly and the surrounding forest is protected. This complex interconnectedness isn't just about big trees and specific animals. It's about every single living thing playing a role, no matter how small or strange. And speaking of strange, let's dive back down, not to the ground this time, but to the shadowy, often overlooked corners of the forest where the truly bizarre and wonderful reside. Imagine a frog so translucent you can literally see its internal organs, its beating heart, its digestive tract. These are the glass frogs, delicate, often tiny amphibians that cling to leaves near streams. Their transparent skin an eerie, beautiful adaptation that allows them to blend almost perfectly with their leafy, watery surroundings. They lay their eggs on leaves hanging over water, and the male glass frog will often guard the clutch, keeping them moist until they hatch and drop into the stream below. It's a remarkable, almost voyeuristic glimpse into the mechanics of life. Or perhaps you're looking at a branch, thinking it's just a branch until it slowly, subtly moves. It's a stick insect, so perfectly camouflaged that you could stare right at it for minutes and never realize it. As a living creature, this isn't just a quirky tidbit. Mimicry and camouflage are master classes of evolution here. From caterpillars that look exactly like bird droppings, talk about a low bar for self-esteem, to snakes that blend seamlessly with the leaf litter, or spiders that disguise themselves as twigs, or flowers. Every creature seems to have developed an ingenious way to either hide from predators or ambush prey. It's a constant arms race of deception, a living game of hide and seek where the stakes are incredibly high. And then there are the army ants. Forget your garden variety ant hills. These guys are a whole different beast. Army ants don't build permanent nests. They're nomadic, forming temporary shelters called bivouacs by linking their own bodies together. But their true terror and ecological importance comes from their massive, coordinated swarms. Millions of ants marching across the forest floor in a wide, terrifying wave. Like a living carpet of doom. They don't just walk around. They devour everything in their path. Insects, spiders, scorpions. Even small vertebrates that can't get out of the way fast enough. They are the ultimate forest cleanup crew, consuming carcasses and keeping insect populations in check. And other creatures, like certain birds, actually follow these swarms, picking off the insects and small animals that flee the advancing ant front. It's a truly horrifying yet utterly fascinating example of a force of nature. Try not to think about them marching across your sleeping bag. You might also encounter some truly strange insects, like the lantern bug or peanut-headed bug, which has an utterly ridiculous, elongated, peanut-shaped protuberance on its head that makes it look like something a child drew. Or the immense Hercules beetle, with horns that can be longer than its body, looking like a miniature, armored dinosaur. Entomologists often describe the Amazon as the ultimate playground for evolutionary experimentation, where natural selection has produced a dazzling array of forms, colors, and behaviors, often pushing the boundaries of what seems possible. But the Amazon isn't just about the visible wonders, it's about the deep, often uncomfortable, historical mysteries that are only now beginning to surface. Remember the discussions about terra preta and the idea of ancient Amazonian civilizations? Well, new technology is literally reshaping our understanding of human history in this region. For decades, Western scholars often depicted the Amazon as a pristine wilderness, sparsely populated, with only small, nomadic tribes. This narrative conveniently ignored the rich, complex history of indigenous peoples and served to justify resource extraction. But LiDAR light detection and ranging technology, which can essentially see through the dense canopy using laser pulses, is revealing something astonishing beneath the trees. Hidden cities, vast networks of earthworks, complex geometric patterns, sophisticated agricultural systems, and interconnected settlements are being uncovered at an unprecedented rate. We're talking about populations numbering in the millions, far exceeding previous estimates. These weren't just scattered villages. Some were complex urban centers, garden cities that lived in harmony with the forest, managing its resources sustainably for thousands of years. They cultivated incredibly fertile soil, built elaborate defenses, and created intricate societies. all without the same level of environmental destruction seen elsewhere in the world. Scholars are now debating the scale and complexity of these ancient Amazonian societies, forcing a radical reevaluation of pre-Columbian history and challenging the very notion of what constitutes civilization. It suggests that the Amazon was not a pristine wilderness, but a landscape profoundly shaped and managed by human hands for millennia, in a way that left little visible trace until now. It's like finding a whole lost continent of history, buried not under sand, but under leaves. This new archaeological evidence also sheds light on what happened after European contact. It's now clear that the vast majority of Amazonian populations, like those elsewhere in the Americas, were decimated by European diseases, smallpox, measles, influenza, to which they had no immunity. It wasn't just a few isolated tribes. It was likely millions of people, entire societies, wiped out within a few decades. The forest, in a sense, reclaimed their lands, masking their monumental achievements. This great emptying contributed to the myth of the Amazon as an untouched wilderness, simply because the people who had shaped it were gone. It's a sobering historical fact, a tragic reminder of the profound and often devastating impact of colonialism. Early European explorers and naturalists like the indefatigable Alfred Russel Wallace and Henry Walter Bates, who spent years here in the mid-19th century, were venturing into a world already reeling from this demographic catastrophe, though they couldn't have fully known the extent of it. They faced unimaginable hardships. Constant disease, malaria, and yellow fever were rampant, killing many, venomous creatures, treacherous rivers, and immense isolation. Wallace famously lost nearly all his collections in a ship fire on his way home. Imagine that, years of back-breaking, mosquito-bitten work, gone in a puff of smoke. But their observations, their meticulous notes, and the specimens they did manage to bring back fundamentally shaped our understanding of evolution and biodiversity. They were often utterly reliant on the indigenous guides and communities they encountered for survival, for navigation, and for understanding the bewildering array of plants and animals. Their scientific discoveries were often built upon millennia of indigenous knowledge, a fact that's thankfully getting more recognition now than it did in the colonial era. The history of the Amazon is also, inevitably, a history of resources and exploitation. The rubber boom of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, for example, was an era of incredible wealth for a few and unimaginable suffering for many. Indigenous communities were enslaved, forced to tap rubber trees under brutal conditions, leading to widespread atrocities and demographic collapse in many areas. Manaus, the opulent Paris of the tropics, with its grand opera house, stands as a stark monument to this dark chapter, a glittering facade built on the literal sweat and blood of forced labor. The story of Henry Wickham smuggling those rubber seeds out, essentially ending Brazil's monopoly, wasn't just a bit of cheeky botanical theft. It was an act that reshaped global commerce and had profound, long-lasting impacts on the Amazonian economy and its people. It's a prime example of how events seemingly small in scope can ripple out with immense, unforeseen consequences. All this history, all this life, brings us back to the present. The Amazon, this living library, this global climate regulator, This repository of ancient wisdom is under unprecedented threat. We've talked about logging and cattle ranching, but the pressures are multifaceted. Large-scale agriculture, particularly for soy, is expanding rapidly, often on deforested land. Illegal gold mining, often driven by global demand, contaminates rivers with mercury, poisoning the food chain and devastating aquatic ecosystems and the people who rely on them. Even climate change, driven by global greenhouse gas emissions, is altering the Amazon's delicate balance. Increased droughts more frequent and intense forest fires, and shifting rainfall patterns threaten to push parts of the rainforest past a tipping point, leading to what scientists call Amazon dieback, a catastrophic transformation of vast areas, from lush rainforest to dry savanna. The very thought is chilling, isn't it? The scholarly debates around these tipping points are intense and urgent. How much can be lost before the system collapses? What feedback loops will be triggered? Scientists are using complex climate models, satellite monitoring, and ground-level research to try and predict the future, to identify the critical thresholds. Environmentalists and indigenous leaders are at the forefront of the fight, advocating for stronger protections, land rights, and sustainable development models. They are champions of the ancient wisdom that teaches harmony with nature, lessons embodied in practices like terra preta. The fight to save the Amazon isn't just an abstract environmental concern. It's a fight for human rights, for climate stability, and for the preservation of an irreplaceable global heritage. It's a battle against powerful economic interests, and it requires global attention and sustained effort. Every sustainable choice we make, every product we buy, every policy we advocate for has a ripple effect, however small, on this distant, vital ecosystem. You breathe in deeply, the air still thick with the scent of damp earth and life. The sun, now high above, casts distinct shadows, and the constant hum of the forest is a comforting presence. You feel a new appreciation for the struggles and triumphs, the beauty and brutality, the ancient mysteries and urgent modern crises that define this extraordinary place. You've seen the Amazon from the ground up to the highest reaches of the canopy, through the darkest night and into the brightest day, across its vast rivers and into its hidden past. And yet, you know, this is still only a glimpse. The Amazon holds so many more layers, so many more secrets, so many more wonders. And its story, my sleepy friends, is still far from over. It is a story that continues to unfold minute by minute, breath by breath, beneath the vast, watchful eye of the equatorial sun. It is a story that continues to unfold minute by minute, breath by breath, beneath the vast, watchful eye of the equatorial sun. And as the sun climbs higher, warming the damp air and casting sharper, shorter shadows, you might start to feel the sheer, relentless energy of this place in a new way. It's not just the cacophony of sound or the overwhelming green. It's a palpable hum in the very air, a vibration of life that makes your skin tingle. You've journeyed through the forest's layers, seen its creatures from the ground to the sky, and even glimpsed its ancient human past. But the Amazon, like a particularly good novel, always has another chapter, another secret tucked away, often in the most unexpected places. Let's talk about some of the truly asterisk weird asterisk stuff. The kind of creatures that make you wonder if evolution just had a really wild imagination. Down here, take, for instance, the Jesus Christ lizard. No, it's not a biblical reptile. It's a basilisk lizard, and it earned its nickname because it can literally run across the surface of water on its hind legs. Imagine that, a sudden blur of green, sprinting across a pond, defying physics with surprising grace. They have special fringed toes that create an air pocket, allowing them to skim across the surface for short distances to escape predators. It's like watching a real-life cartoon, a brief, astonishing sprint that perfectly encapsulates the Amazon's capacity for jaw-dropping biological ingenuity. Early naturalists, confronted with such a sight, must have questioned their sanity, or at least their sobriety, or consider the amazing adaptations of creatures that thrive in the nutrient-poor Blackwater rivers. Those tea-colored waterways that look like strong coffee. The water is often acidic, low in oxygen, and very clear despite its dark hue. Life here has to be incredibly specialized. One of the most famous inhabitants is the Amazonian manatee, a gentle, herbivorous giant. The only manatee species that lives exclusively in fresh water. These peaceful behemoths, reaching up to 9 feet long, glide silently through the murky depths, munching on aquatic plants. They are incredibly vulnerable to hunting and habitat loss, and their elusive nature makes them difficult to study. Scientists, using acoustic monitoring, try to track their movements, listening for their subtle clicks and whistles that hint at their hidden presence. It's a race against time to understand and protect them before they're quiet. Watery world shrinks too much. And what about the plants that fight back? Beyond the poison dart frogs, some plants here have evolved defenses that are truly impressive. There are trees whose bark is laced with neurotoxins, or leaves that cause excruciating blisters on contact. Then there are the ants that live in symbiotic relationships with certain trees, protecting their hosts from herbivores with their vicious stings. Step on the wrong root, brush against the wrong leaf, and you learn a swift, painful lesson in botanical boundaries. It's a subtle dance of warning and respect. A biological arms race playing out silently across the forest floor. You quickly learn to watch where you put your hands and to never, ever lean too casually against something that looks interesting. The Amazon is also a masterclass in recycling, not just of organic matter, but of, well, everything. Nothing goes to waste here. Even the air is constantly being processed. The immense volume of trees acts as the planet's largest carbon sink, sucking up vast amounts of carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. This is why it's often called the lungs of the Earth. Those scholars will quickly point out that it's more like a giant air conditioner and humidifier, regulating global climate patterns. The moisture released through transpiration by billions of leaves creates vast flying rivers, atmospheric currents that carry moisture thousands of miles, influencing rainfall as far away as Argentina and even parts of North America. Disrupt this system, and you disrupt weather patterns across an entire continent, even globally. It's a scale of interconnectedness that humbles even the most seasoned meteorologist. You might feel a sudden drop of water on your head, even though the sky is clear. It's not rain, it's condensation or perhaps the excretion of an insect, or maybe a tiny frog taking a very high up pee. It's a constant drip, drip, drip of life, the forest itself breathing, exhaling, living. Every sensory input here is amplified. Every subtle shift in light or sound or scent is a clue, a piece of the puzzle. It forces you to be present, to pay attention in a way you rarely do in your everyday life. And this hyper-awareness, this constant vigilance, brings us to another aspect of the human experience in the Amazon, the psychological toll. Imagine spending days, weeks, or even months deep within this overwhelming green world. Early explorers and naturalists, even with their scientific zeal, often succumbed not just to disease, but to the sheer psychological pressure, the constant humidity, the relentless insects, the feeling of being watched by unseen eyes, the profound isolation, the disorienting sameness of the landscape, the endless sounds that never truly cease. It can chip away at your sanity. They reported vivid hallucinations, intense paranoia, and profound depression. It's easy to see how the forest, to minds unaccustomed to its raw power, could transform from a scientific marvel into a monstrous, living entity, capable of consuming not just the body, but the mind. Think about the adventurers and missionaries, the prospectors and escaped slaves, who found themselves utterly lost in its depths. The Amazon doesn't just obscure paths, it reclaims them, digests them. A trail that was clear yesterday might be swallowed by new growth today. Rivers shift course, creating new oxbow lakes and cutting off old channels. Without the deep, intimate knowledge of indigenous guides, getting lost here is not a romantic notion. It's a slow, terrifying descent into oblivion, a prolonged battle against starvation, disease, and the crushing indifference of the forest. The stories of those who vanished here, leaving only fragments of notes or a lone, rusted machete, are chilling reminders of its untamed power. This raw, untamed nature, however, is precisely what makes it so vital and so vulnerable. We've talked about the pressures, logging, cattle, mining. But there's another looming shadow that's increasingly altering the face of the Amazon. Infrastructure. Massive hydroelectric dams are being built across major rivers, flooding vast areas of pristine forest, displacing indigenous communities, and altering the crucial flood pulse that defines the ecosystem. These projects, often championed as progress and sources of clean energy, come at an enormous environmental and social cost. The damming of rivers fragments fish populations, changes water chemistry, and even affects rainfall patterns downstream. Scholarly critiques highlight the short-sightedness of such projects, arguing that their long-term environmental and social impacts far outweigh any immediate economic gains. It's a classic example of human ambition clashing head-on with ecological reality. And then there are the roads. Roads carved deep into the forest, ostensibly for development, but often acting as arteries for illegal logging, land speculation, and uncontrolled settlement. They are the initial surgical cuts that allow the infection to spread, opening up previously inaccessible areas to exploitation. Satellite imagery shows how deforestation often radiates outwards from these new roads, like a cancerous growth eating into the green heart of the forest. The Amazon's future, in many ways, is being determined by whether humanity chooses to build more roads into its interior or to protect the incredible web of life already thriving there. The sheer economic incentives driving this destruction are immense. Beef from deforested Amazonian land finds its way onto plates around the world. Soy, much of it grown to feed livestock, clears vast tracts of forest. Gold from illegal mines fuels global jewelry and electronics industries. The connection between what happens here and global consumer demand is direct and undeniable. This is not just a local problem, it is a global responsibility. Yet, amidst these immense challenges, there are incredible stories of resilience and hope. The indigenous communities, despite centuries of oppression and displacement, continue to fight for their lands, their cultures, and their rights. They are often the first line of defense against deforestation, their traditional knowledge and sustainable practices offering a viable alternative to destructive resource extraction. Groups like the Kayapo, the Yonomomi, and countless others are fierce advocates for their ancestral territories. Using everything from traditional weaponry to social media campaigns to protect their homes. Their struggles highlight the fundamental truth that protecting the Amazon means protecting the people who live there and have stewarded it for millennia. Anthropologists and activists often work hand in hand with these communities, amplifying their voices and supporting their efforts. Conservation efforts are also evolving. Beyond simply designating protected areas, which is, of course, vital, scientists and conservationists are exploring innovative approaches. From engaging local communities in sustainable forest management and agroforestry projects, to using high-tech satellite monitoring and artificial intelligence to detect illegal deforestation in real time. The fight is being waged on multiple fronts. Citizen science initiatives, where ordinary people contribute data by identifying species or monitoring river health, are gaining traction, creating a global network of eyes and ears for the Amazon. It's a complex, often frustrating, but profoundly important battle. You might even see evidence of these efforts as you imagine yourself there. Perhaps a small research station, a cluster of solar panels, and a satellite dish nestled discreetly at the edge of the forest, a silent sentinel of science, or a group of indigenous rangers patrolling their land, their faces etched with the wisdom of generations, their eyes sharper than any camera. These are the quiet heroes, working tirelessly, often against overwhelming odds, to ensure that the Amazon continues to breathe. As the sun arcs higher overhead, the forest reaches its peak of daytime activity. The air shimmers with heat, and the sounds are a continuous, unbroken symphony of life. You feel a droplet of sweat trickle down your back, but it's no longer uncomfortable. It's just part of the experience, a confirmation of your immersion. You realize that to truly understand the Amazon is to embrace its contradictions, its profound beauty, and its deadly dangers, its ancient rhythms and its modern crises, its astonishing diversity and its heartbreaking fragility. This is a place where every step, every breath, every glance reveals something new. Something that challenges your preconceptions about the natural world. It forces you to confront your own smallness in the face of such overwhelming life, and yet, paradoxically, it also connects you to something immense and timeless. You are a temporary witness, a fleeting presence in a story that began long before you and will, hopefully, continue long after. The vastness of what remains undiscovered here is almost as profound as what has been catalogued. Imagine scientists estimating that there are potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of insect species still awaiting formal description. Thousands of plant species, their medicinal properties unknown, their ecological roles yet to be understood. Whole communities of microorganisms, fungi, and invertebrates that constitute the true engine room of this ecosystem, largely invisible to the human eye, yet performing vital functions. It's a frontier of knowledge, a constantly unfolding scroll of biological wonders, each waiting for its moment of revelation. And the archaeological secrets, with every new LiDAR scan, with every new excavation. The map of ancient Amazonian civilizations is being rewritten. Scholars are still trying to piece together the full picture of these vast, sophisticated societies that thrived for millennia, showing how humans could live sustainably at scale within the rainforest. It's a powerful counter-narrative to the idea of inevitable environmental destruction, a beacon of hope from the deep past. The debates over their societal structures, their trade networks, their spiritual beliefs, and the exact reasons for their eventual decline beyond disease are ongoing, revealing a history far richer and more complex than previously imagined. You lean back against the kapok tree once more, feeling the rough texture of its bark, the slight vibration of the forest through its immense trunk. The sun is now beginning its slow descent towards the west, and you can already sense the subtle shift in the forest's energy, the anticipation of the next act. The calls of the diurnal birds begin to mellow, the buzz of daytime insects softens, and a different kind of quiet begins to creep in. It's not silence, not here. It's the gentle turning of a page, as the Amazon prepares to don its nocturnal cloak once more. You close your eyes, letting the sounds and smells wash over you, deeply, inextricably connected to this breathing, living entity. You've seen the Amazon in its full, blazing glory, through the eyes of its ancient inhabitants, and in the harsh light of modern challenges. And yet, there is always more. More to learn, more to feel, more to understand. This story is an infinite spiral, always returning, always revealing something new. And as the first lengthening shadows begin to creep across the forest floor, and the temperature dips ever so slightly, you remember that feeling of profound darkness from the previous night, and the incredible, hidden world it unveiled. The Amazon does not sleep. It merely shifts its consciousness, changes its costume, and prepares its audience for another act of unparalleled wonder and mystery. And we, my sleepy friends, will be ready to listen as the last vestiges of daylight fade, and the forest begins to hum with the secrets of the coming night, ready to tell its story anew. And we, my sleepy friends, will be right there with it, as the last vestiges of daylight fade, and the forest begins to hum with the secrets of the coming night, ready to tell its story anew. As the sun, a fiery orange orb, finally dips below the distant, hazy line of the horizon, the Amazon breathes a deep, collective sigh. The vibrant hues that painted the canopy throughout the day begin to mute, softening into a palette of bruised purples, deep indigos, and an almost indescribable forest green that leans towards black. The sharpness of the day's sounds, the insistent chirps, the territorial squawks. The distant roars gradually mellow, blending into a richer, more continuous drone, a low thrum, that vibrates not just in the air, but in the very ground beneath your feet. You find yourself standing still, completely immersed, your senses gently overwhelmed yet strangely comforted by this ancient, profound transition. The air, which has carried the heady scent of damp earth, verdant growth, and the occasional burst of sweet, unseen blossoms all day, now deepens, becoming richer, perhaps hinting at night-blooming flowers, preparing their secret perfumed signals, designed to draw in the silent, fluttering pollinators of the dark. It's a fragrance both earthy and ethereal, a subtle invitation into the mysteries that only the night can fully unveil. The humidity, a constant companion, now feels less like a warm, wet blanket and more like a soft, enveloping shroud, holding you gently within the forest's vast, living embrace. The first faint stars, invisible from the forest floor earlier, begin to prickle through the highest leaves. If you were to somehow float up there once more, away from the encroaching shadows, they glimmer like distant, watchful eyes, tiny pinpricks of light in the vast, cosmic tapestry, reminding you of the boundless scale of the universe above this miniature, teeming world. But here, beneath the canopy, the darkness deepens into an almost absolute blackness, a darkness so complete that it seems to absorb all light, allowing your other senses to bloom in its stead. The symphony of the night, previously a cacophony, now resolves into a strangely soothing composition. The frantic calls of the individual frogs from earlier hours begin to blend into a unified pulsing rhythm, a thousand tiny voices weaving together into a single, resonant chorus that seems to rise and fall with the very breath of the forest. The constant, electric hum of countless unseen insects becomes less abrasive, settling into a pervasive drone that feels like the very pulse of life itself, an ancient, rhythmic heartbeat that has echoed through these trees for eons. You are no longer just hearing separate sounds. You are experiencing the collective murmur of an entire, waking ecosystem, attuned to the moon and the stars, ready for its nocturnal dance. You remember the creatures of the day, the vibrant macaws, the playful monkeys, the stealthy jaguars, the unhurried sloths. Now, as the last light fades, you envision their silent retreats, their seeking of secure roosts or hidden lairs, making way for the forest's night shift. The bats, those silent, winged guardians of the darkness, are now fully awake, their invisible sonar pulses mapping the intricate aerial highways, snatching insects mid-flight. Their presence a quiet, effective patrol against the buzzing hordes. The owls, with their soft, silent wings, begin their patient vigil from high branches, their luminous eyes scanning the gloom for any telltale rustle. And the nocturnal mammals, the armadillos, the packers, the ocelots, begin to stir, their senses heightened, their movements deliberate and soft against the damp earth. The Amazon never truly sleeps. It simply shifts its consciousness, transforming its vibrant, sun-drenched persona into a deeper, more mysterious, and perhaps even more profoundly alive nocturnal form. As you lean against the kapok tree, its immense trunk a silent testament to centuries of quiet witness. You reflect on the journey, on all the layers of life and history you've encountered. From the tiniest leaf-cutter ant to the towering Brazil nut tree, from the ancient, ingenious practices of terra preta to the tragic, devastating impacts of the rubber boom. From the subtle dance of co-evolution to the urgent, complex challenges of modern conservation, you've glimpsed a world of boundless wonder and profound vulnerability. You've learned that the Amazon is not merely a collection of trees and animals. It is a complex, interconnected web, a global powerhouse of life that breathes oxygen, regulates climate, and holds within its green embrace secrets of medicine, agriculture, and human history that we are only just beginning to truly appreciate. The sheer scale of its biodiversity, the endless adaptations, the constant intricate dance of life and death. It is all a masterclass in ecological efficiency, a living library of what is possible when nature is allowed to flourish in its wild, untamed glory. And you realize that your presence here, even in imagination, is not just as an observer, but as a silent participant. By simply listening, by allowing yourself to be carried into its depths, you've become a part of its story, however fleetingly. The Amazon, in its infinite wisdom, has shared a sliver of its ancient soul with you, a glimpse into a world where time unfolds in the slow, deliberate rhythms of growth and decay, where every creature, every leaf, every drop of water plays an indispensable role. The scholarly debates, the urgent pleas of conservationists, the quiet, unwavering wisdom of indigenous elders, they all coalesce into a singular truth, whispered on the humid breeze. This place, this wondrous Amazon, holds not just the past, but the very possibility of a vibrant future for all of us. Its health is inextricably linked to our own. Its continued existence a vital component of the planet's delicate balance. To protect it is not just an environmental imperative. It is a profound act of self-preservation, a recognition of our shared destiny on this pale blue dot. As the night deepens further and the air becomes cooler, wrapping you gently in its velvet quiet, the distinct sounds of the night begin to blend, softening into a continuous, pervasive hum. The distinct chirps and calls, which once felt overwhelming, now blend into a single, continuous, almost melodic vibration of the planet itself, a low, steady heartbeat beneath the vast, silent ceiling of stars. You feel yourself sinking deeper into this rhythm, your own breath slowing, matching the ancient, deliberate pulse of the forest. The last specific images begin to blur, the sharp outlines of leaves, the glint of distant water, fading into a comforting, indistinct green-black. You are safe here, in this moment, held within the vast, ancient embrace of the forest, no longer a mere visitor, but a transient part of its living, breathing story. The worries of your own world, the incessant demands, the ceaseless noise, begin to recede, absorbed by the boundless quiet of this timeless place. All that remains is the gentle hum, the soft breath of the Amazon cradling you,